Huzzah! We're talking about electricity in the body. Can you feel it? Can you feel the energy? Can you feel the electricity? We're biochemical, electrical little beings here. And every time I try to talk about this to somebody, literally every time, and that's not infrequent, I've never gotten an idea that people actually have any idea what's going on here. Maybe I'm talking to the wrong people about it. But I've taken my own research pretty seriously to try to figure this out and figure out how to best move forwards, what is important, what is not important. Keep that in mind, is knowing that while I do what I can to assess the highest quality research that I can find, as well as learning from my own experiences, my own experiments, so in a non-biased way, I can make the best choices for myself moving forwards and make the best recommendations that I can. Because, I get asked about this. Does this matter? Does this not matter? What can I do about it? So that's what this video is kind of about. I don't want to have a fluffy understanding about this. I want to understand what's going on. And yes, this is still based on hypotheses, though, because, they're all kind of theories. Nobody's looked at an atom and seen, the actual atom like a model, right? They're still based all in kind of theory, but hopefully it's helpful for our understanding nonetheless, so we can make better choices. Number one, we're looking at how our body actually facilitates electrical charge and electrical potentials. We're biochemical, electrical suits, things going on. Let's have a look at that. Number two, we're going to look at what grounding does and how it might work to do all the amazing health things and heal wounds faster and reduce inflammation and help autoimmune diseases and whatnot. How might that happen? Number three, we're going to look at electromagnetic stimulation, like those external zappy devices that you hook on, and where they may be a good idea, or maybe they're not worth it at all, so stick around for that. Number four, we're looking at harmful electromagnetic fields. It's conspiracy theory time. Sort of. There's more and more significant research that says this actually does matter. So what are you going to do about it? That's what that section's about. Number five, because this is a little bit of a complicated topic, I'm going to try to keep it simple enough that anybody can understand, but we're going to review and then have our integration practices at the end, so stick around for that. Ready? How do our bodies facilitate electric charge, literally in our cells? You remember that protons have positive charge, electrons have negative charge. Sodium, potassium, and calcium are the main electrolytes that hold charge inside and outside of the cell. You got your cell membrane, and that's kind of like a little gate thing. You've got extracellular fluid outside, and you've got the inside of the cell. You have electrolytes on both sides, and they do things. So when no current is passing through the cell, there's generally more sodium outside and more potassium inside. It's called the resting membrane potential, which is slightly negatively ionized. It has about minus 70 millivolts of charge. The difference in total charge inside and outside of the cell is called the membrane potential. So, just review here. The charge difference and the chemical difference on each side of the cell membrane establishes the electrochemical gradient. So, there you go. Some energy, some difference in potential there is required to transport ions, to transport the sodium and potassium inside and outside of the cell, for instance. So in action, we're going to look at nerves in a second. In action potentials, cells become positively charged and depolarized, and that they go zapped, and then the sodiums, they go through a little channely thing, and the potassiums, they go, and the calcium, they go inside and outside of the cell very, very quickly, because then the cell will repolarize and hopefully come back to its negatively charged resting state, hopefully and ideally. I have a theory that might not always happen so ideally, because we might be running low on electrons if we never touch the earth, for instance. That's for next part. So having just a little review here of nerves, right? Cellular communication, motor control, all of that. We really like nerves to work fast. So if we stub our toe or if we step on a thumbtack or something, we know about it very quickly. Very, very quickly. Neurons, they make up the whole nervous system. They're not just in your brain. They make up the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So when you step on that thumbtack, you can get a communication going, woo! Possibly at about 120 meters per second, which is about as fast as Lightning McQueen on race day. Literally. And remember that each neuron is kind of this very long, stretchy thingy, right? And at the end, you got axon terminals, and they release certain neurotransmitters, which then jump that gap and instruct the other neurons to do certain things. You're passing the message along. And the thing that I think is very important here, I don't know why more people don't talk about this, so maybe I'm just way off and crazy, but I think this is a huge question. What influences the release of one neurotransmitter over another? You know, you've got a bunch of them stored in these axon terminals, kind of ready to go. They need replenishing, some more than others, which is why you can get things like serotonin syndrome. But you know, what's telling that axon terminal, let's go for dopamine, let's go for adrenaline, let's go for adenosine? What's making that choice? What do you think influences that? Please let me know if you have any great ideas there. My hypothesis is that it is the type of energy that flows through. And so you can call that energy, you could call that a certain vibration, like you're hearing these vibrations right now. That's a communication that could tell you to do something. You know, if I go and tell my brother to please pick up the salt, I communicated an energy and he responded with a particular type of action. It makes sense that our nerves kind of do a similar thing, but they use obviously the electricity and chemicals, vibrations, energy. I think even emotions have an electrical energy to them, right? So you could feel one emotion and it'll send certain neurotransmitters. You can feel a different emotion, it's a different communication. It communicates to send different neurotransmitters, which I think that's the huge part of, like Bruce Lipton always says, you know, the environment influences the gene. Change your environment, you change the gene expression. Well, how do you change your environment? You just can send different energy signals through your body. You can change the energy of your body, change your thoughts, change your communications, change your emotions, like communications inside and outside. This all has an effect. I think that's what's going on. Tell me if I'm completely off. I could be totally crazy in the coconuts. So if you've got choice there, you could influence your biology, influence your chemistry by changing the energy signals, by changing the communication signals. Yeah? Where does grounding come into this? How does grounding affect the electrical system? You know, you might ground an electrical motor, or if you've done electrical work on your house, you ground the electrical box so you don't get zapped if there's a short or whatnot. But how does it affect our bodies? Basically, Mama Earth has a whole ton of free electrons. It's a really abundant source of free electrons that are ready to go where they are needed. And supposedly the Earth restores, you know, lightning storms, turbulent water like waves and whatnot is a source of electrons for us. So we can get in that and do some pretty cool things. It seems like when we take in these free electrons, they have a very big antioxidant effect. They're very successful at reducing inflammation and not just physical stress. Well, I mean, I can't even draw that separation. Just stress overall. That's physiological and psychological stress, which in turn has a whole bunch of positive health benefits because we're able to actually go into that state of parasympathetic nervous system where we can do our healing, where we can actually get blood where it's needed to go. If we're chronically stressed, then our organs are not able to do their things because they don't have the resources being sent to them. If we are able to relax, we don't need all our blood in our muscles and enough fight or flight or freeze response. We can just heal. Our cells can rebalance. And the negative ions, the source of electrons, seem to really help with that. You may be curious, like I was, of what PubMed says about grounding. I remember looking at this a few years ago, and they said, grounding seems like they have changed. There's now this PubMed, the big, huge PubMed article. I'll leave a link to it if you want to read the full thing, but some excerpts from the conclusion here. If you want to read them, honestly, I'm just going to let you pause the video and read them in your own time. Pause if you want. I do suggest doing it. And then go. Let's have another look at this. How does grounding reduce inflammation? Pop quiz, Remember that negative ionization probably allows cells to return to their resting potential if they're stuck and they're unable to actually balance out and have that, that minus 40 to minus 70 voltage, perhaps getting more electrons from the Earth helps do that. Without return to full rest, your cells may remain chronically stressed, leading to systemic inflammation, different neurotransmitters being released. Who knows what havoc could happen if you're basically running with more of a positive charge than your body really wants to hang out at. You probably become more acidic overall because alkaline is generally negatively charged, and acidic pH levels are generally positive charged. That has an effect on a whole bunch of things, chemically and electrically. Remember, Mama Earth is a virtually unlimited battery of donor-free electrons for our bioelectrical bodies, but only when we actually connect with her through something conductive, like a bear skin, through a conductive material, which might be sand, it might be water, it might be concrete, it might be good dirt, clay especially, it might be stone. It is not rubber shoes, it is not turf, it is not buildings. Wood is not great, but it's not the worst. It's not like rubber, There's plastic. Plastic is not very conductive at all. Conductive material, it doesn't need to be like copper and gold to be effective. There really is something that feels good about being buried in the sand. You got bear skin, especially wet sand. It's really it's a good conductor, and you can have that deionization. A quick note about free radicals here. If you had like an injury or something, an open wound or something, you'd want inflammation there to help facilitate the healing response, help facilitate proper immune system response and whatnot. There's a certain amount of free radicals that you want localized there. But if you have rogue free radicals going all over your body, then it can cause a lot of inflammation across the whole body instead of just at the source of an injury. You might also get things like autoimmune disease, possibly because of that. So if we are able to eliminate free radicals from going rogue all over the place, too many of them, that would be a cool thing. They call that an anti-aging thing. It seems like the more we are conducting with Mother Earth, the less wild free radicals we have. Remember, I don't claim this is 100% correct. It's my hypothesis. All right, electromagnetic stimulation. This is being done a lot in physical therapy clinics at the moment because a lot of people have really inactive glutes, and that's a very important thing. Your glutes are not there for show. They are a very important muscle group. And if you're not using them properly, you're probably going to experience a lot of back pain and knee issues, to say the least. It poor sports performance as well. Even though your body's very clever and will use its thighs and use other muscles to get by, we want our glutes to be working properly. So physical therapists spend a lot of time strapping electrodes to people's butts these days to zap them back into function. So you can rehab this with normal exercise therapies, which is what I go for. It's available anytime, it's easy, and it's effective in the vast majority of cases. Sometimes people like to get fancy and let's electrocute. It's an option. So this is called electromagnetic muscle stimulation, EMS, not to be confused with the emergency medical services. But it uses external electricity at a certain frequency and intensity to shock muscles into firing. It can be more or less intense depending on what you want. And they're great for preventing atrophy if you were injured and unable to do a workout. If your ankle was totally broken or something, but you wanted to maintain your leg strength and muscle, then EMS might work well to do that because it'll be like a little workout. It's not as good as a real workout, but it's useful in certain situations. You may experience enhanced strength and conditioning if you do this. I would say that is probably more relevant to untrained individuals or not training individuals in the case of an injury. But you could spend your time either doing this, or you could do an actual exercise, an actual workout, and you'd probably see better results. Some people are just don't like exercising, and I guess this is better than not exercising. But if you had a choice of do I want to spend my time either exercising for real or just doing this electrically stimulated workout, I would choose real exercising for sure. Increased circulation because you're contracting. Whoa, so circulation is good. Again, if you were stuck in a bed for some reason, you wanted to still pump your lymphatic system, I mean, you could do just like normal muscle contractions, like with your mind. That would probably be better still. But this is like using an external electrical stimulus. And what's cool about this is that if, let's say you have a knot in your back or something, you could put an electrode there, and it would probably help with relaxation and create an anti-inflammatory response after stimulation. So like during the response, it's like, "Ugh!" And then it's relaxing afterwards. So is a workout. In exercise therapy, we stimulate the muscle, for instance, and then we stretch it or do trigger point therapy. So this is kind of similar. Electroacupuncture. Acupuncture is similar, but running an electric current through the needles is what we're talking about here. This seems to really enhance brain-body connection. And a lot of people in the posterior chain and their back muscles I'm talking about, I don't know, because maybe that's because they don't see it with their eyes, but they are very unaware of what the muscles are doing back there, what was going on. And if they were aware, then they would have a lot better control of their shoulders, so they weren't having a forward shoulder condition and a really weird like neck hump, if they were more aware of their back muscles. So this is where I probably think this is like a most useful application. You lie down, you have an acupuncture that knows what they're doing. They stick needles in the right place where those muscles are really hyper tightened, or there's a trigger point clearly there, or maybe if they're very lazy and shut down and you just want to wake them up. I'm not a professional acupuncturist, so there's people that know a lot more about this than me. But, you can wake up. It's not super intense because obviously you wouldn't want to be like shaking around with a needle in you. But you can hang out there, and I've heard really amazing stories of just like how much this helps people reset their bodies, relax old trigger points. If you had a really stubborn one, behind your shoulder blade or something, get a needle in there, run a little current. It can really help. I think electroacupuncture would be great as far as an energy medicine tool if you've got stuck energy in your body, if you for whatever reason, and you could move it around. Another thing you may have heard of in this area, or if you go and search EMS device or something at home, you will probably see a lot of TENS machines. These are another sort of EMS machine thing. They are generally not super effective. They're not very strong. They seem to work okay for temporary pain relief, but don't do a lot to actually change what's going on long term. So I don't recommend them. There's better ways to spend your time and money, in my opinion. Alright, ready to look at invisibly things? They're not invisible to everybody. Some people see the electromagnetic fields from devices and from bodies. I certainly see it from bodies once in a while. But avoiding harmful electromagnetic fields. Side note here, positively ionized air, which commonly comes from things like air conditioning, is kind of in this boat here. It doesn't matter, should you care about it? Is it just hooky? Let's have a little bit of a look at this. You can look at some of the research that I think is compelling enough to possibly change something. You might want to make a change in your life to experience better health and better longevity by knowing this. And remember that we're not trying to become paranoid here. That wouldn't be helpful for our health either. But if we can change something easily enough for better health, for better quality of life, even if it's a little bit less convenience, then it might be very well worth it, right? Convenience isn't always convenience. Sometimes convenience creates much bigger problems. I wouldn't want to go for something short-term convenient for long-term cancer, right? So electronics emit electromagnetic fields and, or radio frequencies and whatnot. In the modern days, they're more or less covering the planet, but in more or less concentrations, and there's different kinds of frequencies and whatnot. Wi-Fi is a little different than Bluetooth, is a little different, cellular service and whatnot. There's high frequency EMFs, like the ones in X-ray machines. It's very well known that you wouldn't want to be under an X-ray machine for all the time. You probably get cancer real quick or something. And there's also extremely low frequency EMFs, which are like microwave ovens, which is like Wi-Fi and whatnot. And so here's one, I'll leave the link to this research article, but here's some kind of conclusions from it. In humans, not just mice, not just rats or whatnot, but in humans, 7 different Voltage-gated ion channels, we looked at those before, are known to be activated by exposure to pulse electromagnetic frequencies. So this means that the sodium, potassium, those electrolytes can move in and out of the cell triggered by these electromagnetic fields. And this change was observed within just 5 seconds of the cells in a culture being exposed. So this suggests that they're really directly affecting our cells. I think that's important. The different biological effects of EMF exposure includes lower male and female fertility, neurological effects including learning and behavioral issues, oxidative stress, cell cycle problems including death and damage to the cell, changes in steroid hormone levels, significant, and calcium overload. For some reason, calcium can't leave. We know that trigger points are generally calcified bits of muscle. There's too much calcium buildup in there, which means that even trigger points in your muscle could be made worse by more electromagnetic frequency exposure and possibly made better by negative ions like Mama Earth. Again, you can pause and read this if you wish to see another conclusion from just one of the many studies. I thought this one was particularly important because it was looking at Wi-Fi in education facilities. And we're learning our whole life. So you can pause that there and read it and resume. Now, you may have met or you may know about electrosensitive individuals. These people that they feel, they hear, they have immediate effects when they're in certain electromagnetic fields, at least. And so they seek to either build their homes protected, they ground Faraday cage, use big copper shields or whatnot, at least in their bedroom, for instance. And they also seek things like camping in specific little pockets of the world where there is no cell service and whatnot, so they can just get a break from the bombardment of electrical signals. And knowing that these people exist, they all feel similar symptoms, they seek out the similar solutions, and they seem to help. That gives us, if we're less sensitive to electromagnetic fields, a better idea of what we can do to protect our health span. The principle I want you guys to remember here is ALARA or AMARA, so that's as low as reasonably achievable, or AMARA is as much as reasonable. So, number one, we are looking to eliminate sources of harmful EMF, specifically Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And there are other sources. I'm very suspicious of things like electric sheets, electric blankets and whatnot. I just rather not risk it. I don't know, I haven't measured it with my little multimeter or whatever, but I am not going to take the risk when I could just enjoy like a normal blanket, right? So we want to eliminate these sources. Your cell phone data specifically. The cell phone service, yes, but the cell phone LTE, the Bluetooth on your phone and whatnot, especially Bluetooth headphones. I know they're convenient. Bluetooth headphones, though, you're putting that in your brain like right there. Really do not recommend it. As we're going for as low as reasonably achievable. I know not everybody is probably going to make this change, but you make the best decision for you. TVs, some types of TVs more than others, tons of EMFs. So even just being further away from the thing, far away from your computer monitor, far away from your laptop. A lot of the studies of I know it's called a laptop, but actually having it on your lap. I'm gonna back up a little bit here, but having a laptop on your lap and it's right next to your reproductive organs, and then you're typing away. Your posture is usually terrible because you're hunched over. I would never put a laptop on your lap. Just don't put it on the floor or something before a lap. You do not want that computer sitting on you. And that's why I suggest at least get a separate keyboard and monitor solution. My little computer is this big, so I just plug it in when I need to use it, right? And I can still travel with it. And then I get a separate monitor, separate keyboard, separate mouse. So I'm honestly probably 3 feet from my computer most of the time. These are just ways that we can mitigate the risks. The last solution I want to mention is that you go live in a cave with your pet lizard with no cell service and whatnot. And I know that's only kind of a joke. You can go out camping more often, and that honestly does help. And I like to illustrate this with the story of of one friend. We were living in a jungle hut, kind of in a valley in Hawaii, and there wasn't any cell service there. And it was on the North Shore of Hawaii in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So honestly, pretty good idea if you wanted to get away from too many frequencies. There's no major towns nearby. Anyway, traveling to get there, this lady she was pregnant at the time, and going through the airport, you know, they have the big X-ray scanner thing that you stand in, and she was like, "I'm not going in there, not with me and my baby." And you know, airport security says, "You know, your cell phone has more radiation than this machine going around." And guess what her reply was? She said, "Well, good thing I don't have a cell phone either." You know, and she totally embraced, like, she did not have electronics, period. She used a plane and whatnot to travel once in a while, but like, she just lived her life electronic free. And I totally respect that. That was her choice. You think what, she was depressed all the time or she couldn't make money? No, she found her ways. So that's an example that works for some people. Now, mitigating the effects can be done in a little bit less of an extreme way. For instance, the easiest thing, the most actionable thing, you can buy one of those little timers for like $5 or something, stick it in your wall, set it up to turn on and off at specific times. So maybe it turns off at like 9 p.m. It turns on at 8 a.m. or something, however long that works for you. And so that is Wi-Fi free zone. That would be huge. That would split your Wi-Fi time in half. And it seems like as long as your cells have a little bit of a break on a regular basis to kind of reset, to get their ions sorted out, then that can just make a wondrous difference. And so you might think that's small, it's darn sure cheap, but do it and you feel results. The other more expensive, definitely more expensive option, especially if you're in an area with a whole bunch of signals or you have a cell tower nearby and you don't want to move house entirely, you could make your home some version of like a Faraday cage. You'd want to ground the cage and you'd want the smallest possible gaps. Like small, some cages, like they have big gaps between them, they don't work so well. But if you get sheets or copper paint, it's not cheap, but you could do copper paint or something and it's conductive, and then you ground it. And basically, you could test the theories really, really quickly by having your phone in it. And if you have zero cell service, your phone can't do anything inside of your bedroom, for instance, then it's working pretty good. Also, mitigating the negative effects and enhancing the positive effects of our negative ions and whatnot. Remember that we want to be probably using grounded bed sheets. So at nights we're grounded a whole night through. That would be great. We can also just walk barefoot or in some sort of conductive environment. So not plastic, not turf. Hardwood's not that good either. You just want something that plugs straight into the earth as directly as possible. Usually it's stone, right? When I build my house, I'm trying to do an earthen floor. It takes quite a while, so certain sections are probably only going to do it. But you smush dirt in a certain way. You have to make it like moisture free somehow, but you smush the dirt, you oil it so it's kind of firm and it isn't dusty. And then you have dirt ground, which is pretty cool. Just one of the synergistic solutions that I'm exploring. I'm trying to find somebody to teach me earthen building right now, so the walls can be insulated electrically. Big fat thick earth walls, stone walls and whatnot, as well as the ground, and then figure out something for the roof. If you know anybody, let me know. The other source of negative ions you can try is forest bathing. The wind, moist wind twirling around the trees and whatnot, that's a great source of negative ions. Forest bathing, hiking, especially hiking in mountains and clouds and stuff, that wind really helps. And you can even drink negatively charged water. It's alkaline water. Electrolytes need to be in there for it to be alkaline water. Otherwise, purified water actually seems to be right about 7 on the slightly acidic side. So I like my alkaline water. There's debate on whether it does anything. I drink alkaline water, spring water and whatnot when I can. I think it feels fantastic. So I'm going to keep doing it. And I don't care if some scientists are snobby and say, this isn't very good research. I like it. It feels good to me, so I'm going to keep doing it. Let's have a quick review and then some tips for integration. Remember, we are bioelectrical beings. Feel it. We need our electrical systems to be working properly. Electrolytes are obviously important in this process in our cells, so we better make sure that we have potassium, we have enough sodium. At this point of changing your energy patterns, because that's how you can change the neurotransmitters that are being released. That is a key takeaway, that theme from last video over, like, if you change your emotions, your thoughts, change your stimulus, change your environment, you change your chemistry. So take that, integrate that, let your blood know, let your nerves know, let those chemical messengers know, and you can really change a lot of things, even gene expression. Connecting to the Earth's free electrons regularly, doesn't need to be 100% of the day, just as regularly as you can improves many physiological and psychological measures. So let's do that. And remember that chronic EMF exposure is linked to a lot of nasty stuff. If you actually read the articles, you can learn more about that. I don't want to make this whole video about that. And the action steps today: enjoy as much barefoot, bare skin conductivity as possible. Bury yourself in the sand. Go for a swim in the ocean or a river or something, even if it's cold. And number 2, put your Wi-Fi on a timer. Go get a timer. Go dig one out of the closet, whatever you need to do, so it turns off automatically from whenever you are shutting down for the night to whenever you are actually starting work. Not whenever you want to, I don't know, like watch Instagram in the morning, but whenever you're actually going to use it for some functional purpose. And that might be less. There's other benefits to this besides from the EMF exposure. You might find yourself a lot more focused and enjoying that, like, Wi-Fi free time. Number 3, avoid putting your phone in close proximity to your body and keep it on flight mode with all 5 antennas off. Do you know what all 5 antennas in your phone are? Your cell service, there's Bluetooth, there's the different Wi-Fi ones, there's location, like, they're all different antennas in there. And so you want to shut them all down if you are not actively using them. If you want to use your phone, all right, take it out of your bag, whatever, you turn it on, it boots up, you'll get a bunch of messages at once or whatnot, do your thing, and then shut it off. If it's totally in flight mode, I do keep mine in my pocket. It's probably not the best thing in the world, but I do keep it's on. I might even be listening to like an audiobook or something through wired headphones or air tubes, and I'm like, that's something that I'm willing to do. That's a border that I'm willing to play with. But if it is on, if it is cell service, if data is on, hell no. I want to have kids, so I'm not putting cell phone in my pocket. Before is kind of a funny one, because after all of that, I want to remind you, don't stress the potential harms as much as focusing on the healthy benefits of doing what you can. Focus on the healthy feelings of going for that swim in the ocean, of walking barefoot on the grass, barefoot on the concrete. Enjoy the healthy effects and know that there's so much you can do to avoid the negative effects of positive ionization and electromagnetic fields. So, we don't want to be chronically stressed, like psychologically. We'd call that a nocebo, thinking there's invisible things in the air hurting me. The Wi-Fi has their the neighbor has their the neighbor has their Wi-Fi on. We don't want to go there. We can control what we can. It might influence some choices of like where we move. Or we're looking at buying a house. Oh, it has a cell tower in the yard. Well, maybe not. But enjoy those health benefits. Enjoy even the placebo effect of feeling that water and be like, yeah, more than the stress of knowing that there's a Wi-Fi router 200 meters away. Makes sense? Take those action steps. Feel good. I'll see you in the next one.